What are the criticisms of liberation theology? What are the criticisms of liberation theology? This movement, which began in Latin America, focuses on helping the poor and oppressed through social and political change. However, it has faced several criticisms, especially regarding its ties to communism and Marxism. One major concern is the movement's reliance on Marxist ideas. Critics argue that liberation theology sometimes puts Marxist thought ahead of biblical teachings. This can distort core Christian beliefs. For instance, sin is often viewed not as personal rebellion against God but as a result of oppressive social structures. This shift can prioritize political liberation over spiritual salvation, which some see as a misrepresentation of Christianity. Another criticism is the perceived alliance with communist movements. The emphasis on radical change and, at times, the endorsement of violence can align with Marxist revolutionary goals. This association has raised alarms among religious leaders and political figures, who view liberation theology as a threat to social and political stability, particularly in Latin America. The adoption of concepts like class struggle and critiques of capitalism makes the movement suspect to those wary of communism. Some critics also point out that liberation theologians often claim to have received new divine revelations that justify altering Catholic teachings to include Marxist ideas. This assumption challenges traditional church authority and doctrine. Additionally, liberation theology has been accused of attacking its critics within the church, which can create division instead of encouraging open dialogue. Another point of contention is the focus on structural sin rather than personal sin. Traditional Christianity emphasizes individual repentance and spiritual renewal, while liberation theology tends to highlight social and structural sins, like poverty and oppression. This focus can overlook the importance of personal spiritual transformation, which many believe is essential to the Christian faith. Furthermore, some theologians argue that liberation theology equates theology with politics. This prioritization of social activism and political liberation may alienate believers who prefer a more traditional focus on faith and personal relationships with God. Lastly, liberation theology explicitly prioritizes the poor and oppressed. Critics question whether Christianity should focus preferentially on one group over others. This could lead to partiality and neglect broader Christian teachings about universal love and salvation. From a communist perspective, these criticisms reflected the tension between liberation theology's religious framework and its use of Marxist analysis. Communism critiques religion as a distraction from revolutionary action. However, liberation theology seeks to merge faith with social change, creating a blend that is both embraced and contested within religious and political circles. The criticisms often stem from concerns about mixing religious beliefs with political ideology, especially one associated with communism, which many religious institutions have historically opposed.